Welcome, everyone, to the ExecuBalance Podcast, where we dive into what it looks like to have balance in our professional and personal pursuits. I'm Chad Crowe. I'll be your host for this episode. I'm also the CEO of techwood.digital and father to 4, husband to 1, so I know what it's like to have a crazy schedule and struggle to find balance. Before we begin today's episode, I want to invite you to help us continue the conversation by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We look forward to connecting and having deeper conversations so that we all can grow together and continue this podcast. So please connect with us there, as well as make sure to visit our website at ExecuBalance.com. All right. So without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. Doug, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I think kind of a good way to kick off and start our conversation might be to roll through kind of some of the current roles that you play right now. I know you've got an amazing gig at 1Q right now. Yep. So talk to us a little bit about the roles you play at work right now.
Yeah, so 1Q is a market research insights platform. Been around for about 5 years, and came over as a CRO earlier this year. So managing the day-to-day business and the growth strategy for the company, as well as sales, marketing, and the other hats that you wear as a startup. So it's always keeps you busy.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, a big job right now, but then also on the family side, what are some of the roles you're balancing right there?
Between the mentor-mentee relationship with my kids and the wife, and then baseball coach and piano recital, a page turner for my daughter, and try to be a good partner and spouse, and raise the kids, and I think the COVID on top of it these days, it becomes a much bigger challenge for all of us.
Yeah, much harder for sure to find balance.
Absolutely.
Awesome. You've got a girl and a boy, right?
Mason 9, my son, and then my daughter Madison is 6.
Awesome. And then, like you said, a husband to a wife.
For
10 years?
Been married for 10, together for 15.
She's going to be listening, man.
All right, make sure my dates. Did good math there. So we've been together for 15, 16 years now, and have 2 kids and a German Shepherd puppy, and they're 2.5 kids, and
that's a big role right there, having a puppy, man. Was that a Christmas gift?
He was a COVID puppy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was time to get him and so bring him into the fold. So if life wasn't crazy enough, it definitely got crazier with him.
Awesome. So it sounds like I said, you're balancing a lot of roles right now. Very influential role at work. You've got obviously staff that count on you. Yep. You've got revenue goals to hit, sales to hit, and then on the family side, baseball and piano and all the fun things that go there, as well as finding a way to be supportive for the wife. I'd love to dive in and talk about a time when all of those roles kind of overlapped and conflicted a little bit. How do they conflict? How do they mesh together? When you're rolling through those moments in your life.
Yeah. Well, I think it was probably 2 or 3 years, probably 3 years ago, in the throes of a complete cold startup from scratch, business partner, myself. And at the time our kids were, 1 and 2 and then maybe 3 and 4. So, a couple years apart. And you have the responsibilities of growing revenues and a board of director, wanting to have you hit your numbers and your targets and your goals, and you're growing this company to 30 employees, and you're trying to develop a culture for the company and be there for your employees and be a good boss and be a good employee. And then you come home at 7:30 at night and you got to flip that switch and, become a dad and a husband. And I think that, in the throes of building that startup is probably the hardest. And we couldn't have done it without my wife and her support and, her understanding of what it took to do the job and the stresses associated with it, and her understanding. But, at 7:30 at night when you roll in and she's had the kids for 2.5 hours and dinner, going, and she's like, "Hey, welcome to the party."
Home, yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, hey, stuff's going on here too." And so it's flipping that switch and that mindset to go from, boardroom to the home. And make sure you're there to be there for your kids and homework and getting them, happy and fulfilled with their lives, and, trying to be a good parent. And I think it's really hard for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. I don't think we give each other ourselves enough grace.
Totally.
When we're trying to balance the things that we do, especially in a startup. And my gosh.
And and 3 years ago, pre-COVID, you're in the office and you're kind of, you need to go home and you want to go see your kids and see your wife, and you got just one more thing to get done, and next thing you know, it's getting later and later and later. And there were definitely those nights where, it's 8 o'clock, 8:30, and it's like, hey, your kids are going to bed. Like, could you have done this later at night? And then, you start second guessing kind of your approach. And so, I think I finally reached the point to where it was, 5:36, it was time to go, right? And try to go home and spend some time with the kids. And they're going to be at about, 8:30 or so, and then pick up later, right? And try to find another time to be able to get that work done, to find another opportunity to answer that email or get that project done. And I think that it took a long time to get there. And I think it's just the prioritization in your kids. And as they got older, they'd ask, where's daddy, right? And it's like, oh, and that to me was a trigger. When I think it was that kind of that realization of it's time to like really make sure they're taken care of at the same time, and then you can get back to what you need to get back to.
So it was kind of the 30-foot view of, I've been rolling at this for a while, and now, the kids are having questions and different things, and that was kind of convicting to you? Well,
I think it was, when you're in the throes of building a startup from scratch and your kids are infants or super young, you kind of get into that rinse, wash, repeat kind of cycle where you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. The nanny shows up, you go to work, wife goes to work, you come home, you do dinner, bath time, bedtime, you crash and you wake up, do it all over again. And next thing you know, you pick up your head 3-4 years later, and you're still doing that same routine, but now your kids are asking questions and wanting more help, and they want to spend time with you, and they're getting into activities, and you want to be there for your kids, and it becomes a big struggle. How do you balance that, time with your family and time at work, and make sure everybody's happy? And I think for me, it was when they became older and they had to start to go to those activities, and I wanted to be there, and I didn't want to miss anything, and you get so much joy out of that. And I think it just, at a certain point, I just realized that the whole reason why I'm doing the work thing was for them, right? I mean, I enjoy my career and I enjoy what we do, but family's first for me. And so it kind of just, it caused me to kind of change my priorities. And really, I've been a baseball coach now for 6 years, and we're going, he's 9, probably in his 12th season playing baseball. And daughter's getting to softball and piano and everything else she's doing too. And so it's that's why we do it. I mean, that to me is why we do what we do and try to provide a great life for our kids. And if you're not there for the moments that they're there for, what's the point? And so I think once I kind of realized that, I really try to structure my day and my week around the family. And you're still getting your work done and accomplishing the goals you got to get done for work, but you just find a different time to do it. And I think, being a flexible boss and employer and having that support at the corporate level just delivers a much better employee because they know they've got that support at the office as well. And so that was a big trigger point for me too, is having somebody at the office, with me that understood the exact same thing. He was a family guy, and he got it better than anybody else. And he's like, go, like, you're not missing baseball. Call me in an hour, call me 2 hours, whatever. Let's talk tomorrow, and we can figure this out. But go spend time with your family.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a big aha moment.
Yeah,
is this kind of like okay, we've been going along. I feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah,
I don't want to miss it anymore. So we're gonna change something to make sure we're not missing it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like to me that the change wasn't you just sitting there saying I'm going to change it for me. It's let's make sure the company that we're building and everything we're doing changes it for everybody else. Yeah. And in doing so, it'll change it for me.
Yeah, no, I think even pre-kids, we're working for a company who's trying to grow up the ranks, move my career, and grow and make us much money and all these things we want when we're in our 20s and 30s, and you finally start to achieve it, and you go, yeah, maybe it's not as good as I thought it was, right? And, I did that for so long and really ran hard and worked the nights and weekends and burned the candle at both ends of the stick. And then when the kids came, I guess I was really fortunate with my dad that he was always there and was a big figure in my life with sports and coaching and helping me be successful in what I did. And so he kind of gave me that blueprint, right? And so as I went into life with my kids, I wanted to be there because it meant so much for me that he was there. And so I wanted to continue that trend with mine. And so, as they got older and those activities started to pop up, it just became, I guess it's almost like what you're wired to do, but you got to make yourself do it. Yeah. And that's the hard part. Yeah.
Well, and like I said, I think I love the concepts of it really being a cultural change for the company too.
Yeah.
And to balance your life, you have to bring them along. And so some of the things I think you were talking about was some of the maternity leave things that you were doing with your company at the time to try to show people you care about their families so that they'll care about yours.
Yeah. I mean, and it was really forethought with Sean, my business partner, and kind of putting together a culture that really drove and bred success and accountability, but really supported the employee. And so we were, up north of Atlanta, and all the employees we were bringing on were younger in their career, living in Buckhead and Midtown, and they're making that hour commute both directions. And we asked them maybe 6 weeks in, like, hey, what would make this better? Like, I found them to drive to Alpharetta. And so then you begin to think about how you can impact that and really trust the employee to do their job. And, we gave them flexibility to work from home a couple of days a week. They had to earn it to do it, but it became a routine and part of that culture. So they wanted to hit their outcomes and hit their numbers. They could work from home, had that flexibility. We gave them the ability to have time off and to have flexible PTO and really enjoy life at the same time and be a successful business person. And I think it became the culture of the organization. And as we grew to a much bigger company, we kept that with us. And so honestly, when COVID happened back in March, we were really well poised to go well and go forward with that because we had already done it. And so when we switched to 100% work from home, everybody was used to doing it. So we didn't skip a beat. And it really set us up for success last year in 2020 because we didn't have to overcome that hurdle.
And one of the more specific things that you told me about was, for maternity leave, some of the things that you did there, and that you would provide diapers for the first year when somebody had a kid.
Yeah. So we did diapers for the first year. We did meals at home for the first 12 weeks. We cleaned the house every other week for the first 12 weeks. And so really kind of helped support the mom and the parent. And Sean and I have both been through that, knowing how hard it was to have a baby and you get that time off, and then all of a sudden you had to go back to work. And so we did flex time on the back end of the paternity leave so that you could actually transition back to that role of, I just spent the last 12 weeks as a mom, and now I have to go back to be a mom and a career person. And so how that transition was done. And so we try to support as much as we could. And I think it really showed our employees that we were supporting them and their life goals and what they were going through to help them, start that path of transition and find happiness and balance between work and life.
So it really has turned into the you can have everything you want as long as you help enough other people get what they want. And so it's like, hey, we want a good balance. We want family time. We want to make sure that everybody's family is important. And so you gave that away. Yeah. And in turn,
we got great production and very low turnover and really high employee morale because they felt like, we were going to bat for them. And, it was a benefit that most people didn't need at that point in their life, but they saw that as a one set of steps that we had taken to show that support for them. And so it really kind of, that was the first thing we did. And then it kind of grew from there to bring in other types of benefits that just, showed support and showed balance and understanding that life happens.
And as a fellow business owner, right, like your workload goes from here to here when you have to hire at a fewer people and you keep people longer and they know what they're doing. And so in turn, that can absolutely helps you balance your life. That's awesome.
And we built a startup and over the course of 3 to 4 years had very minimal, if any, turnover. And so, I think that just showed that the culture we had built kind of resonated with the employees and nobody wanted to leave, and when you have that type of employee ownership within the organization, you work harder, right? You have that, you're side by side kind of in the trenches with that person. You don't want to let them down. And the coolest thing for me as a leader to see the teams that I built over the years where they're in each other's weddings and you see them on vacation together and you built a culture where people thrive and enjoy that type of environment and then take it to the next level with their friendships and the rest of their life.
Dude, I love that. On some of the hardest days I've had at Techwood, one of the activities I'm fond of doing is sitting down and going, okay, let me think about my circle of influence and how many people are in that. And so you start thinking of, these people might not have ever met had we not had this company together, and they're the best of friends. And you start to think of this family and the relationship they have with that family. Then you start to think of the clients we have and how many employees do they have and how many people are in those families. And so that gives me energy on the hardest of days.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of my mentors once told me that, it's not, you don't look back 5 years ago, what percentage of plan you were, who number one was in the company, or what the big project was that year. It's the journey you had and the relationships you earned over that 5 or 6 year period. So to see that come to fruition, you remember the journey and the relationships and the pictures and the people that were in your wedding that you worked with, 10 years ago. And that to me is why we do what we do. And really is what kind of drives me as a leader and a motivator and as a business person.
So just an incredible story of realizing what's really important and then helping everybody on your team focus on that. Has brought you some freedom. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
And then as we go into kind of today, obviously nobody's perfect and there's always still some challenges. You talked about what's kind of one of the biggest challenges right now, one of the biggest threats to family time right now for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, it's devices, right? I mean, it's I think with COVID and how we've had to adapt to the changes we've all had to overcome with work from home and school from home and activities. It's no longer an 8 to 5 or an 8 to 6. You're getting work done when you can and when you have to, but really when you can. And so having that flexibility and challenges, I think, also leads to you're having your phone around a lot more, and it's easy to all of a sudden 7, 8 o'clock at night you're watching TV with your family, and the next thing you know you're looking at emails. Next thing you know you're responding to emails, and then you go get the laptop, and then it's like, well, this can wait. My kids are here and impacting that family time. And, I said earlier, my dad was a big influence on me with coaching and being there for me and helping me really grow as a person. And, I never looked up and saw his head buried into a phone, and so someone told me that one time, and it stuck with me that, as you sit there with your family, the last thing you want to do is have your kids like looking up at you while you're buried in a phone. And so trying to put that away, and my wife does a great job about it. I definitely need to be better. Just reminded me that, be in the moment, be there with them and help them and just be there for them and not have your head buried in a device or a phone.
And then you told me too, that you have a very intentional spot where you can go that ensures devices are not going to be used.
Yeah, no, I had the opportunity this Christmas to go down to Sapelo, down near Savannah, St. Simon's, with my brother and his family, and it was an amazing experience. It's an island with 80 people on it, so it's very remote, and you got Wi-Fi at the house, but the minute you leave that house, you've got no cell phone coverage, and so that was a very liberating week of able to come in, check email, and look, and the house hadn't burnt down, and everything was still standing, and nothing was wrong. And you kind of got through that and went, oh, okay, now I can go enjoy the rest of my day. And you weren't reaching for the phone, you weren't looking for the device because it didn't work. And so it was a week of just absolute recovery and rejuvenation, kind of coming into 2021. And hopefully we can make it an annual thing, because it definitely recharged the batteries.
Yeah, I love it. That it's a recharging thing, but it's also a teaching thing. You said when we got back, the house didn't burn down.
Yep.
Right. Like we learned something here. You know, I can put the phone down and we can survive.
Well, I think you have that fear of the unknown, and what if something has happened? What if somebody needs me? And I just remind myself. I think that did a really good job of reminding me that I hired really competent people around me to execute and do what they do, and let them do it. And I don't think I've ever had something happen in business where, they couldn't handle and it couldn't wait a day, And so I'm kind of taking that lesson I learned back at, just now a month ago, and trying to put that into perspective as we go forward here through COVID, to take a minute and unwind and just put the phone down and enjoy the moment and be with your kids at practice, or, just enjoy the moment.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I think some of the biggest takeaways I've personally gotten from our conversation has been, one, having an island that I can go to, but teaching myself that it's okay to put the phone down.
Yeah.
Focusing on family first, because that's going to be a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah.
And then by helping other people be allowed to focus on their family, that will allow me the time that I need. So thank you so much for sharing those tips with us. Do you have anything that you kind of want to leave as a parting shot, any mantra or any book that was influential in as you've kind of worked your way from that period of 1 to 2 year old at a startup and running crazy to the piece you have now?
I just think it was the realization and just through life journey that it is about the journey and the people that you meet and not about the individual accolades that happen throughout a year. And so the reason why we do what we do is for our families. At least it's the reason why I do it. And so it's just, I think, keep that in mind, keep it in perspective, and do everything you can to accomplish both, but don't take it too serious and just enjoy life.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We'll hang out, kind of continue the conversation. Anybody who has any questions or wants to follow up can chat us via our social media channels, and we will connect them with you if there's an opportunity there, or get back with some information to provide it for, I think, a building and growing a community of people who care enough about each other to say, hey, here's some lessons I learned. And they might help you too. So.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.